Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I think I've managed to get it going and make it work. Sorry for this delay. I think Emily, my colleague, has sent a message, but I'll be a bit late. It was really unexpected. We have tried it yesterday and it worked, and we tried it we tried it yesterday and it worked, and now all of a sudden it didn't work. Sorry for this delay, but thank you very much for your patience and for waiting a couple of minutes. Thank you very much for everyone who has joined in and who is very keen to follow this webinar on monitoring and evaluation. We had to already find only the second speaker that was planned for today. My colleague Emily is the real professionalist and expert on the topic of monitoring and evaluation. But because she had some struggles with her microphone already yesterday, we found a solution that I will do the presentation instead of her, not knowing that I will have the same difficulty as she had yesterday. So yeah, I'm doing this presentation on behalf of my and we have certainly comments ever tried. Yeah, a very warm welcome to everyone who has joined in. Let's dive right into the topic from today. Some of you might remember that we spoke about monitoring and evaluation already last year. This presentation today will basically summarize a few things from last year, but we will also have some new focuses and some new aspects of monitoring and evaluation that we have also discovered for ourselves, for our organization, Coaches Across Continents, and that we are focusing on from this year. First, I would like to give you a brief introduction and overview and clarify some terms that we are very often using. And we very often speak about monitoring and evaluation and probably assuming that everybody knows what we mean. And as it happens very often, we use words and sometimes we probably feel a little bit shy to ask if we don't understand. So I would like to clarify these two words. Monitoring is basically describes the process of collecting information about a project or a program. And the second word, evaluation, means assessing that information. Basically, assessing is a different word for putting back. Sorry, it's a different word of for evaluating. Evaluating and assessing are basically synonyms. So these are the two definitions. If it's still not clear what these two words mean, please raise your hand or write a short comment and raise your questions. I'm more than happy to try to explain a little bit further. After we have now discussed the two words monitoring and evaluation, the next slide is a little bit a summary of what we have discussed last year during the webinar that addressed the M&E topic. And that is, why do we need and why do we do monitoring and evaluation? Why do we collect information? And there's two main reasons. First is very, very important, and that addresses the accountability to ourselves. So it's monitoring evaluation can be very much used as as a circular process within our organization. So we can find out, and now I'm going to the 3 points that you see underneath, that we can find out for ourselves if we are accomplishing what we set out to accomplish. Or we can also learn for ourselves where we can improve. And we can also learn for ourselves where we are doing good, where we are successful. Very often when we speak, at least that's what I feel, is when we speak about monitoring and evaluation, I think it's very often used to show where we are falling short and where we are like not reaching our goals. But I think monitoring and evaluation is equally important to celebrate successes. And this accountability, as mentioned in the first sentence, is first and foremost to ourselves, but then also to our partner programs as well as our funders. And this also leads us to the second point, the sustainability in communication. That's the second very important reason why we use and why we do monitoring and evaluation. It's basically to communicate and ensure sustainability, which allows us then to grow and promote our work. And this communication, again, can be used or will happen with other people that are out there. That can be through social media and video, which is the second point under the sustainability point, that we basically share and tell stories. And that can obviously happen through social media, various channels that you probably know very well, Facebook or YouTube. And also with promoting video material. And the second point is the proof of concept, which I want to explain a little bit. That goes more in the direction of funders and potential donors. I think those are the people that want to see that what you want to achieve, that your concept, your goal is really that you are achieving it, and that you can prove that this goal is achievable. And so those monitoring and evaluation data you can use for funding applications or to get the support from your community. So these would be the two main reasons why we would use monitoring and evaluation. And all these points that I have presented to you now, we have gathered from your responses from last year's webinar. I want to repeat that once again, that if you have any questions in between, please don't hesitate to type in the box on the bottom right that many of you have already made use of, and I will try to respond to these questions, or also my colleague Emily will be more than happy to assist. Yeah, thank you for this hint. I forgot to mention that at the beginning, that I would like you to have a piece of paper ready, because we will move in the next 1 to 2 slides towards a topic and tasks that we would like you to fulfill. And for that, it would be good to have a pen and a paper close by. So first, here's, I think, the first little task for you is whenever we talk about monitoring and evaluation, and we have clarified the different terms, and we have clarified why we need it and what we want to use it for. Now it's the question also, where do we start? Monitoring and evaluation is a very huge topic, and there's so many different aspects to it. So I think the first step would be to set the outcomes and goals, to define the goals for yourself, for your organization. And that, I think, is the task that I would like you to do now, is to think for a minute about one goal that your organization has for your programs that you are leading and that you are implementing. Many of you have multiple goals. It's not just one. As CAC as well, we have multiple different goals that we are trying to tackle. But I would like to ask you now to focus on one goal and type it in the box on the bottom right. Emily was so kind to also list some questions that can help you to understand better, and probably also to find the answer to the question what your goal is that you try to achieve. One question that can help is, what is the impact of your work? How is it influencing the people that you are working with? And the second question that can help is, what is the change you wish to see? That can also lead you towards finding the goal that you have. The third question that can help you is, why do you work with your organization? So that could be a question more for you personally, like what is your motivation that you contribute towards the work of your organization. And two other statements that have a gap in between can help you also to find the goal is, because of our organization, X, Y, Z will be accomplished. So in this gap, basically your goal would be filled in. Or after working with us, X, Y, Z will happen in our community. So yeah, these questions will probably help you a little bit to find and to define the goal that you are following as an organization. And I will give you now a couple of seconds, probably a minute, to type the goal that describes your organization and the work you do. Okay. I would wait for a couple of more seconds. Probably some people are typing right now and thinking. It's not a very easy task, which I understand, so I'll just keep silent to give it the space and the time to find the right words. And please, if you have any questions, they are equally important and equally welcome. Yeah, exactly. That would be great. Benedict, thank you for asking. Yeah, it would be great if you can type down in that box on the bottom right what the goal of your organization is. What the goal of your organization, the programs that you are leading, what the goal is. What do you want to accomplish? How do you want to impact the children or youth that you work with? Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Paul, for sharing. Empower girls and young women. Yeah, that's definitely a very big goal, I think, from many of us. CAC is very big on that topic as well, with our Ask for Choice initiative, with our Ask for Choice programs, with International Women's Day. Perfect. Looking at the comment from Shamsha. Okay, yeah, I can see. Raise awareness among students, teachers, and community members about HIV/AIDS trafficking, which I assume is human trafficking, probably like child trafficking or general human trafficking. Yeah, that's a very important goal as well. Yeah, eradicate poverty through education. Yeah, Benedict, thank you for sharing that. Poverty and good education, they go hand in hand. Very, very important. I'm looking at the comment from Atreya. Okay, yeah, welcome Atreya. Welcome to the webinar. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, this is already from Kalekeni. This is a very specific goal. Yeah, get the children to attend school and grade reach 8. So I assume, like, I understand that to reach at least grade 8. Is that what you mean? But that is a very specific goal that could already be, that's already asking how you can measure a specific goal. I think the goal that I see there is good education, and I think you have already specified your goal with certain tools, with certain parameters, how you can measure it by measuring the number of children who attend school, for example, or who reach a certain grade. Thank you, that's great, Kalageni. Vasundara, empower AGYWS so that they can access their rights and become agents of change in the community. Yeah, wonderful. I don't know exactly what AGYW is, but I assume that's probably people who work in your organization. Pedro writes, promote resilience in girls, boys, and adolescents in contexts of vulnerability. Yeah, resilience. That's a very important goal as well. See, is the abolition of hierarchy in my community. Yeah, cool. Yeah, very good, Benny. Thank you for sharing that. And hierarchy that exists is also, in many cases, it also means probably patriarchy, especially in the context of female empowerment and gender equity. Perfect. Yeah. Right to education. I'm reading now again from Kalekeni. Right to education for all children to play. Perfect. Make reading fun. Wonderful. So many new comments are coming in. Thank you for sharing. Jesus has said, for health and well-being, the quality of life for people in the region by promoting partnerships and health. Yeah, health and wellness in its wide understanding, very important as well. I know health and wellness and well-being is a huge topic in Mexico. There's also many people who don't eat very healthy and don't have a healthy lifestyle. So yeah, very important work. Adolescent girls and young women to change the life of young girls and boys by focusing on education and sports in our community. Yeah, I think that's a goal that unites us all to promote the importance of sports and education through sports in our community. Yeah, that is, I think, one goal that we all have in common. Definitely very much. Okay, perfect. Well, I'm just cross-reading through all these wonderful comments. Okay. Yeah, I'm reading through the comment now from Grain Lefebvre. Give disadvantaged youth the tools to escape the cycle of poverty through access to education, healthcare, and sport. Wonderful. Great. Yeah, Kalekeni again, very specific. Soccer league for both boys and girls of age up to 15. Great. Yeah, I like that. Cool. Stay in school, not early marriage or having children. Yeah, I think, yeah, Kalekeni, I see you very specific with your goals, and I think you're moving already in your thought process towards measuring them and having specific, specific targets that will help you to measure your goals. We will get into that a little bit later, and then you will also understand what I'm talking about now. I would like to move on now to the next slide, which also I think fits in perfectly in this at this moment, because many of you have mentioned some of those global goals, and I think many of you, if not even all of you, have heard about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, very often also referred to as the global goals. And I can see there a lot of parallels to what you have mentioned, like, for example, goal number 3, good health and well-being. Jesus mentioned that. Many of you mentioned quality education, which is goal number 4, or gender equality, which is goal number 5. So that's really, really great. What all these other comments are still coming in. Yeah. Paul, just for a second, hold on, please. Thank you for being so active. We will have it as a poll. So I will just pull up a poll question, and you will be able to select the goals that you are focusing on. But yeah, exactly. The question on the left-hand side: which sustainable global goal do you think your organization is most focused on? I will pull it up now, and then you will be able to select. Okay, I'm just changing it here. Perfect. Now you should be able to see the poll question. So again, the question is, which United Nations global goal do you think your organization is most focused on? We have not selected now all the 17 goals that you saw on the chart. We have selected 9 of them, and if none of the 9 that we have selected, pre-selected, if none of them applies for you, then please select answer J. Cool, I see the answers are coming in. Perfect. Yeah. 5 people, 6 people. I can see it counting here in front of me. So I'll give a couple of more seconds, and you can read through the different options. 9 people, 10 people have responded so far. Wonderful. Thank you for participating. Yeah, perfect. 12 people have participated in the poll. If you haven't answered yet and you still want to, I'll give you 10 more seconds and then I will present the results. In the meantime, I want to quickly focus on the feedback from Atreya that she just sent, that was regarding the previous slide, to empower and educate underprivileged children in our community by teaching them life skills through the joy of playing football. I think that's an incredible goal. That's very, very nice. Okay, cool. I can see nobody else is putting any answers in, so I will present the results to you. Okay, now you should be able to see it. So we can see the two biggest pieces is answer number D and answer number E, which is quality education and gender equality. So basically, if I do a quick math, it's almost 50%, 45% of you are tackling these goals. I have allowed you to have multiple choices, so you could choose more than one goal. So multiple, that doesn't mean that we focus on one goal, but most of you, if we take answer number C into consideration, which is good health and well-being, then we are being close to 60%, 66% even. And so 2/3 of you are tackling at least one of those three goals: good health and well-being, quality education, and gender equality. And then the next biggest parts is answer number A with no poverty, and answer number F and G, which is decent work. Decent work and economic growth and reduced inequalities. Perfect. Thank you very much for participating. I will exit the poll and go back to our presentation. If you want to know more about the global goal that you have just selected, please go to the web page that is listed here underneath. It's called www.globalgoals.org. You can do that probably after the presentation, after the webinar. Please stay with us for now so you don't miss any important information. But yeah, we want to encourage you to visit the web page. Because it also has specific information. Everyone who is not too much. Okay, let's see. Now here we go. So I've just looked at the specific targets. So I want to give you now an example of one of those goals. In this case, it's the quality education, goal number 4. And now you can see the specific targets that we as CAC, but also you as our partners and member partners and implementing partners are tackling. One of the targets is ensure that learners acquire the knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainable development. For example, human rights, gender equality, promotion of a culture of peace and nonviolence, global citizenship, and appreciation of cultural diversity. So this first target, for example, it describes more specifically what quality education means. And you will find these targets for any of the 17 goals that you saw on the previous slide. any of these 17 goals has specific targets. The second target that we have selected here that falls under the quality education goal is provide safe, non-violent, inclusive, and effective learning environments for all. For children, for people with disabilities, and for different genders, for girls as well as boys, for women as well as men. And then this third target is substantially increase the supply of qualified teachers, including international cooperation for teacher training in developing countries. So that's the third target that falls under quality education. In order for our children to be well educated, we also need qualified teachers, we need qualified coaches. So CAC, as well as our implementing partners, are doing a great job in that regard. Okay. Now what is the question that Emily wanted to raise at this point? So now that we know our potential outcomes, how can we measure them? So we have spoken about the goals, and many of you have been very specific, like to say like we want to empower the girls, we want to build their resilience, all the great things that you have mentioned, and that you can still read on the right hand side if you want to. Now we need to pick indicators, and indicators means what can we measure that will indicate that we are successful. Yeah, like indicators is, I want to try to describe it with my own words. Indicators are points, are parts that you can see, that are visible, that show us that we are going into the right direction. So one of the indicators, and that's what I meant earlier with a comment from Kalekeni, who mentioned something like, for example, girls attending and staying in school, or no early marriage. That can be an indicator that, for example, the rate of early marriage is dropping, or the number of girls who attend school in higher grades, or attend school in general, can be an indicator. And then with these indicators are coming along the different methods we can use. And as an organization or as an individual who is responsible for M&E, you need to decide which methods you want to use to collect, again, monitor, and assess, which is a synonym for evaluate the information. So there's many different methods. There are two major methods and separations that researchers do is to distinguish between quantitative and qualitative information, or also quantitative and qualitative methods. And as stated also here, we need both. Sometimes you can have the impression that people try to give more importance to one and neglect the other one. But as you will see on the next slides, both of them are important. Okay. And now for this slide and for the next task, your paper and your pen will come into play. So I hope you are able to, or you're having the paper and the pen in front of you. I would like to give you 2 minutes to basically choose one outcome and then make a list of 3 to 6 indicators. They can be qualitative and quantitative, both. Probably you might think now, I don't know really what that means. When Emily presented or explained her slides to me earlier, that's how I felt. I didn't really know what that means and how I need to do that. So I will show you an example, what we do at CAC, which will then probably help you to understand. Okay, so now the indicators. I'll just go back again. So you choose an outcome and then you make a list of 3 to 6 indicators. Now let's look first at the quantitative indicators. You can see here at the beginning, that is the target from the quality education goal that we have seen earlier. I'll read it out again to you. Ensure that learners acquire the knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainable development, for example, human rights, gender equality, promotion of a culture of peace and nonviolence, global citizenship, and appreciation of cultural diversity. So this first sentence, I will go back again, is one of those outcomes. So the first thing that you can see here on that list, the first bullet point, is the first sentence on that slide. And now we have here, in that case, 5 different indicators that can help us to measure this, this target, this outcome. So we could measure the outcome that by, for example, counting the number of games that we have played with the children. Okay, because we want them to acquire knowledge and skills, and by playing sport for social impact games, we know that that will have a certain impact. So we can count the number of games that we have played. We can also count the number of games that we have created. Those of you who participate in the online education program or who have been part of that program in the past, you know that that is a big focus during the program. Or those of you who have already participated in a year 2 or year 3 program on field knows that we are focusing on adapting and creating games. Then the third point is percentage of increase in knowledge of games for social impact. Okay, so that can be your knowledge and your skills in terms of knowing different sport for social impact games. You can also look at the number of themes or the different themes that you that the games that you are playing and creating, that they are addressing. And then also the last point could be the number of learners that are attending the programs. So all these indicators can give you an idea of or can basically give you feedback and evaluate how well you are achieving your goal, your outcome. Okay, I want to go one slide further and I want to talk a little bit about qualitative indicators. As I have explained earlier, there's quantitative and qualitative data that we can collect. Again, the first sentence is the same as on the previous slide. Yeah, it's the target from the quality education goal. But now we would focus on the qualitative indicators. So the qualitative indicators could be, for example, ideas and thoughts that are shared during on-field conversations and online interactions. So that could be the feedback that you receive from your players. That can be the feedback that we receive from you as our partners. That can be the ideas and thoughts that you receive from the parents of your players or from any other adults, that when they describe any behavior change, when they describe, when they tell you a story that is showing that your work has a certain impact. The second point can be certain actions during on-field games. If a person or a group of people behaves in a certain way that they haven't behaved before, that you can track back to certain games and certain activities you have done with them, That can be a qualitative indicator that you see, for example, somebody says, yeah, there's been less violence amongst my players. They are using less bad language. There's less verbal abuse amongst them, or there's less shouting, or less pushing and pulling. That could be certain actions, or there's more helping each other. There's more better teamwork, and then you can see how these actions come to life, how this behavior comes to life. And the last point can be certain observations from partner leads. As I mentioned earlier, observations from parents or observations from people who are outside of your organization, who are, yeah, teachers, parents, partners. That can be schools, for example, principals that can give you feedback. That can be qualitative indicators of the outcomes of your work. And as Emily mentioned in the comment box, is that all of us will have unique outcomes and goals, and therefore unique indicators. And also your outcome can be the goal that you typed in the box earlier, or something from the global goals. Yeah. Okay, so for now I would go back to the that slide number 8. So as Emily already mentioned, one of the outcomes, or the one example for an outcome is the goals that you have mentioned. So that can be your outcome, and some of them have been very, very specific. They have already, I think, kind of moved into indicators. So that is, I think, a challenging task to also differentiate between outcomes and indicators. But I would give you now about 2 minutes to write that down if you want to, and if you feel able. I'm very happy if you can share also your indicators combined with your outcome, combined with your goal. If not, that's also fine, but yeah, we would appreciate if a couple of people, a few people can also share their list of indicators. Okay, I will remain silent for a little while, from 1 to 2 minutes, and then we'll see if there's any feedback from you. If you want to share your indicators, please feel free to type them in the box on the bottom right. Education is not mandatory in Malawi, so it's unique in the villages as we have no teachers or supplies. Yeah, now you could, Kalakedi, for example, you could think now, okay, if education is an important goal for you, that is an important outcome, better education. You could now see what indicators can help me to decide and to judge if I'm coming closer to this goal to have better education. And that can mean to have better educated teachers. So let's say organizing a course for teachers and then them passing that test for that course can, for example, be one indicator that the quality of education is improved. Okay. Benedict says outcome is gender equality. Yeah, that is true. I think you have defined the outcome very clearly, but now how would we see that we have gender equality? What would be the indicators? One indicator could be all sports teams in, let's say, Bangalore, where you are based, Benedict. All sports teams in Bangalore have equal numbers of girls and boys participating in sports activities, which I think currently is not the case. But I think that's a very extreme indicator that is very difficult to reach. So we would also need to find indicators that are more reachable. So let's say we want, for example, an indicator would be we have equal number of girls and boys participating in our programs. That could be an indicator for gender equality within your reach, within your organization. But I think it's going into the right direction. Thank you for sharing, Benedict. Cool, there's so many comments coming in. Perfect. Sundra is saying girls have increased knowledge on gender. Yeah, nice. Yeah, girls have increased knowledge on gender equality, sexual reproductive health, leadership. Yeah, and now you can think how you can measure that they have increased knowledge. Do you do questionnaires? Do you measure the number of early pregnancies? Do you measure, yeah, whatever you measure, like the number of new HIV infections in your region, if you can access these information. Yeah. Paul mentions outcome, empower girls and young girls through soccer. Perfect. Yeah, that's the outcome. And now we need to think about the indicators. How do we know that the girls and the young girls are empowered? How do we know that? Okay, perfect. Yeah, there's a perfect example from Shamsha. An outcome is a decrease in dropout rate. And what is the indicator? Monthly attending sheet of schools. And hopefully on that attending sheet, we will see that more children or more children have regularly attended school than, let's say, at the same month last year or in the same month 2 years ago. Perfect. Nice. Yeah, Paul is saying number of participants. Yeah, exactly. That can be a number of female participants can be a. Yeah, Jordan has an important question to share. How do you know you have been successful? Yeah, that's the question that relates to the indicators. The indicators should help you to see that you have been successful or that you need to improve. Nice. Perfect. Perfect. Atreya is saying something about teach life skills to underprivileged children through CAC games. To observe children incorporating life skills. during game sessions, for example, equality, sportsmanship, to the guardian to monitor. Yeah, so that's qualitative indicators. Yeah, that's very good. Observation and talking, conversation are two qualitative indicators. Perfect. Yeah, thank you, Benedict, for sharing that. Yeah, one indicator is that in the history of 15 years of our school, girls would not play football. But now, through these games, through these activities, two of my girl students are representing the state of Gamataka. Yeah, but also you could also ask now, how many girls are now attending activities? That can be even a more direct link that you can make and you can have. You can check 15 years ago, no girls have been attending and playing football. How many girls are playing now? Empower girls and in girls through soccer. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I like Atreya, I like your qualitative indicators to talk to the children about their experiences. Yeah, very much. We use qualitative data also a lot during our online education program that many of you are part of. Perfect. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Pedro is mentioning a test, RS14. I've never heard of that, but it seems like a quantitative, as he mentions, baseline endline questionnaire. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Yeah, I can see from Vasundhara, indicator would be the percentage of girls who report that they have the aforesaid information in the program's endline survey. Contrast to the baseline survey. Yeah, endline baseline questionnaires is very often a good indicator. Cool. Yeah, wonderful. And also Kalekeni, sorry, mentioning also a couple of more qualitative indicators, allow children to express themselves. We also count how many schools have organized games. Yeah, very good one. Nice. Perfect. Okay, I would move forward now. We have seen all these slides. Now, this will be the last step, is the methods. If you remember, and I'm sure you do remember that I've spoken already about quantitative and qualitative indicators. So now you can have another 2 minutes to think about or to choose either from your qualitative or quantitative indicators, and then think of 2 different ways you can collect and evaluate information regarding those indicators. Some of you, or many of you, have already done that, so I will not remain for too long with this question, but I just want to remind you of some things that people have mentioned, like Kalekeni has mentioned, for example, the count how many schools have organized games. Yeah, so that could be a way to collect and evaluate information regarding those indicators when it comes to quality education, for example. Or Pedro Perez mentioned in regards to promote resilience using this test RS14, which would be another quantitative indicator or quantitative method to prove the indicator of building resilience. Yeah, and not to forget about the qualitative indicators that some of you have mentioned, like talking with the children, getting their feedback, as an indicator, for example, for their knowledge, for their confidence, probably also for their resilience. We shouldn't underestimate the qualitative indicators as well. Okay, just looking at the comments that have still been coming in. Cool. I think Vincent, I want to read through that. Gender equality to bring more girls into sports, to challenge gender stereotypes and empower girls in some of the most rural and remote parts of our community. Yeah. So let me think about that for a second. Yeah, exactly. Okay, now I understand it. Yeah, by keeping track of how many girls you have in your programs, you can also see a progress, and that would be another quantitative indicator that could show that you achieve more equality. If you can show that over time, over 1 year, or over 2 years, or 5 years, more girls are participating in sport and in your activities. Yeah, nice. Okay. Perfect. I will just briefly share some of the methods that we are using at CAC. And Emily has divided them into the qualitative and quantitative methods that we are using for our monitoring and evaluation systems. I'll start with the qualitative. The one that we use very much is the so-called WISER report, which we write after each on-field program that we are conducting. So those WISER reports are internal evaluation documents that we use to review the program and also pass on important information to our colleagues, coaches, who will possibly run the programs in the following year. Informal communication is another qualitative method that we are using. And that's a lot also related to the feedback that you are giving us. It's the stories that we get from you, the photos and videos that you send to us. It's quotes that we get from you. And it's also obviously photos and videos that we take from our programs that we run in the communities. Interviews is another qualitative method that we use. Interviews also very often with our community impact coaches. And also other participants. Case studies, we do that from time to time with, for example, our Michael Johnson youth leaders. We have a couple of case studies that we have published in regards to that program. Or we have also case studies as part of the online education program. And then probably many of you know that we have video and so-called vlogs or blogs that we post after each program or event or any other important event that we are attending. So that gets posted on our webpage and our Facebook page. The quantitative methods that we are using is Excel sheets where we collect the names of the participants, the number of female participants, the number of returners, the number of games that we have played, and we do the baseline endline questions that many of you know who have participated in on-field training, and those information are then getting put into Salesforce, and that this whole process is getting done by Emily, who is our expert on that field. And the monthly feedback form, that's something that will happen in the future. We haven't published that yet, but that is a Google form for our partners that will be distributed along with our monthly curricula that we have been sending out since March this year. Yeah, that's the qualitative and quantitative data and methods that we are using. And now I think I want to just read quickly through the comment from Jesus. Conduct a free survey that would be applied before using the methodology, and post to be applied for at least 1 year after applying the okay, to see results of the methodology in boys and girls. Survey questions are related to the gender equity. Yeah, if you have any of those surveys, I'm more than happy. I would be happy if you could also share them, Jesus, or yeah, let us know where you have found them. But this pre-post questionnaires and surveys are very helpful to see a long-term impact and to see the impact over time. Yeah, very, very helpful. And the more often you can do them, and the bigger the timeline is, the time stretch is, the more powerful the information are. If you do a pre-post questionnaire over a period of like 2 or 5 years, or even 10 years, that can give you a very, very strong and valuable idea of like how impactful your work is. Okay, now we are moving on to the second last slide for today, and that will be this is now the summary of what we have just spoken about over the past hour. We'll start. I'll briefly go through it and basically summarize of what we have been talking about. First, as you probably remember, you have to set the outcomes and goals for your program. That was the first question I asked you. Please define one goal that you're trying to achieve with your program, with your work. Then the second step would be to choose an indicator that will show if you are succeeding. And that indicator is related obviously to the goal. So that indicator is showing, I would say, probably bringing to life your goal. Yeah, it makes it visible. I think that's a good word. The indicator makes the goal visible. The third step would be to collect information about those indicators using specific methods. That was the part that we have been talking about now at the end, about the qualitative and quantitative methods. So you have to then decide how will you find valuable information for those indicators that you have decided for in step 2. Okay. And then in step number 4, number 5, we haven't really focused that much on today. So I think that can be a very good reason to have another webinar on monitoring and evaluation, and probably then focus on those points. So point number 4 says evaluate the information you have collected. So then you can basically, that would be the step to say like, okay, what do I do with it now? How do I make use of it? I've mentioned earlier, a little bit earlier, I mentioned Salesforce, for example, that we are using. That's one tool, that's one technology software that we are using to put our numbers, our quantitative data, where we put it in, where we enter it. So that's one way to evaluate our information that we collect. And there's many different ways. You can do things with Excel. You can do things with like with qualitative indicators, with categories, and so on and so on. So that would probably be another webinar that we could conduct. And then the step number 5 would be choose how you will use the information you've collected and evaluated. That would be then basically the consequences that you would that would follow from the outcomes from the information that you have gathered. That can then mean that you either carry on with the program as it is because the numbers are showing that you are doing good work and that you are successful, or that you make adjustments and you change things because you realize that the numbers or the feedback you get is not really what you have expected. So point number 5 is basically the time where you decide about how to move forward. Okay, I think that is everything for today and for now. If you have any more questions, please write your questions in the box on the bottom right, or write an email to Emily as well. I think Emily can also share her email address, so if you have any specific questions for Emily, you can email her under emily@coachesacrosscontinents.org. And thank you very much to everyone who has been participating. Thank you for your active participation, not just being passively part of this webinar, but being actively involved with sharing your ideas, your thoughts, and all these great comments about the different ways of collecting data and doing monitoring and evaluation for your organization. Cool. We'll see if there's any last final questions coming in. Otherwise, I will say goodbye in the name of Emily Kruger, who is supposed to run this webinar today. And please don't forget the Global Goals website to check that out. And otherwise we will see each other again in August. We will try to run our next webinars, the next webinar, VLC webinar, in 2 weeks from now. So it will be 2 or 3 weeks. It will be a little bit earlier in August than it has been now in July, but it will be definitely again Wednesday, and then we will present to you our next topic. So thank you very much to everyone. Keep well, stay safe, and have a good day. Goodbye.